JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Thursday, February 19th, 3:40 on this fine afternoon. Talk really quick about the market, some names I'm looking at. Go from there. S&P down about 0.4% here in another lackluster session. It's like another one of those days where I'm still trying to nibble or get some conviction in names, dip my toes in calls or even puts, and then the market just kind of teases you and then just chops around, and you're frustrating because me, I love environments where I can find positions and names that I really like, and then watch them go on multi-day runs. And right now, it just doesn't seem to be that environment. So could sit here and try and chase things and force trades. I'm kind of like in this wait and see uh, environment. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now. Of course, there's names that are running that somewhat miss, but I don't even know if I would say I miss because the premiums make it tough. So, you know, I mean, take a look at the last couple of days. Wingstop, right? I mean, gosh, that was down to 220, all the way up to 300 after earnings yesterday, and then it's been bouncing around. And then even trying to trade some lottos on both sides, very, very difficult, right? So it's like a waste time trying to look at a trade, waste time trying to enter or what, and then you go back and look and say, all right, good thing I didn't try and to chase that one. There's other ones I was looking at, like Dash at the Open, and I love the Dash story, right? I forget the names I used to do. Uh, I forget, one of them got acquired. Not DoorDash, not Dash, not the Uber Eats. There was another one. Uh, but there used to be these food services, right? Back in the day when they weren't that prevalent, and it got acquired, but the stock had taken it on the chin. Of course, it'll come to me. Grubhub, right? Grubhub, right? So I love that, right? Back when I used to talk about Grubhub before it went down to got decimated, whatever, it got acquired. It's still around as one of those European conglomerates, whatever. But anyway, I always loved that story because it opened up the last mile story of what they're still trying to fix. And that's why I like Serve Robotics, because that's one of those companies that's trying to save the last little part of, hey, let's get this item, let's get this let's connect the end consumer to the location, the retail, right? So when I look at DoorDash, I always like, that's a name that I used to look at as, okay, this might be an interesting story. And then I was looking at earnings, right? And I'm like, wow, this is normally not the earnings that look like to go bonkers, right? But the stock was going bonkers in the pre-market and had run up the day before. Excuse me. So then I'm looking at the open. I'm like, oh, maybe I should nibble some, just things that I'm looking at. It's not a name I've traded, at least not recently. And then sure enough, it sells off, right? So, but then again, you go look, and then the premiums wouldn't have warranted to try and do some of those trades. So I guess in a nutshell is what I'm saying. I'm just trying to rationalize, trying my best to sit on my hands without going uberly, pun intended, aggressive. And then that's kind of the situation where you overtrade, and then it makes what was already a miserable week even more miserable. So hopefully there'll be some trades that I could find some high conviction in, get a little more aggressive, and have some more fun weeks like we had in November and December. But just really quick, and I don't know why I can't get my charts here. Roblox, one of those other names I traded back in the 90s a couple of weeks ago. And then most recently with earnings, I was looking to trade it. And another one of those names, great earnings, stock went bonkers, and then it sold off ever since. And now you start looking at the chart. I'm like, this thing won't take much for it to get going. You have the whole possible headwinds of, countries shutting down social media and platforms to to folks, right? And Roblox, one of those names that's always in the crosshairs of regulation and things like that. So because of that, uh, it becomes one of those where you look at and say, wow, it could be a headline away from being down 10%, or a headline away from going bonkers. So anyway, I looked at the calls, found some inexpensive strikes to try and trade for some upside. Normally, sometimes I would try and get some weekly strikes, but got the calls in for next week. Give me some time. I'll just continue to hold those. I keep looking at Corning, right? Corning's up and down $2-3 swings, all the way down to 128 today, then back up to 130, 150, then back down to 130. It's in here 130.50. You look at the chart, almost has a possible bull flag setting up. So let's see if I have it here. All the while I'm wasting time staring at GLW, light, LIT, to take a look at light of lemon, however you pronounce it. Gosh, I remember looking at that one back in the day, and it was like 60, $70. And here it is, keeps going. And I'm like, that's another one of those plays that it it it's it takes advantage of everything that's going on, right? And similar with Corning, it's like people, you need infrastructure for the data centers. So it's not like people are not going to need fiber optic cable. There's going to be a need. It's then how much is the need and what's the other possible tailwinds for Corning. So, look at lights. A similar one taken is it's how far does that one go too? So it's just trying to find the next name that's going to pull a Sandus, right? That's kind of what I was looking at over the weekend. So, am I wasting time here on GLW? All the while I could have just got light calls. Those are the things that are just wrapping, doing ping pong inside my head right now. Anyway, hopefully tomorrow we'll find some hopefully some lottos, right? And the market finds some direction. We do have PCE data tomorrow. Also, you have tariff rulings, right? The SCOTUS might have, I guess they're off. I guess it's a ruling day. I don't know. I'm not familiar. It's not something I've really watched too much. I know you always have this is on the docket or what have you, but they have the tariff situation possibly. They might do a ruling. What does that look like? So, for me, I'm always looking at RH for a possible upside. And here it is at 205. And yesterday was actually, I think it was strong yesterday, right? Did it go up to 218? And I have to go look at the chart. But then you start looking at the calls too, and 220s, 35 by 65. The stock's at 205. I'm like, oh, back when I was doing the lottos into tariff day, well, I should call it tariff day. The difference between tomorrow and last time, and I don't know, was it mid-January? The last possible ruling was that RH, it was a Monday, right? So the premiums were elevated on the call. So it made it a little difficult to try and get some premium builds into the event. And it happened, right? I think I had the 240 to 250 strikes. It was like 220, 230, and those calls went bonkers. Here it is. I'm like, the 220s look interesting. So even if the ruling against the tariffs, does that make a name like RH go up 10%, right? And it's like right now it's before the market was pricing in some volatility. Now it's like a $9 move on RH, like a $5% move. So anyway, these are the things I'm rambling around. I don't know when the ruling usually was at 10 o'clock. So that's the name I'm looking at. But again, I don't want to, it's like ruining a week. I don't want to ruin it. It's sour note heading into the weekend, trying to play, just throw money out on lottos, just on rulings. Just like, doesn't jive with me, but don't be surprised if I'm trying to find some calls right at the ruling, right? I mean, we saw the move last in January when they announced, or at least news started coming out, that they weren't going to give any issue rulings to on that day. Then you saw RH just sell off, and it's funny, it sold off. Like, why would it sell off? Like it shouldn't be negative news. It's just people, I guess, anticipation, sell the news. I don't know, sell no news, right? Other names. Oh, after the close today. Oh, SFM, right? That is not a name I've looked at before only because it's a name that sold off. Sprouts Farms. And I think last earnings I was looking into possibly getting some calls as like a lotto because it is like extremely oversold. And then it had earnings and it sold off even more. Let's see if I have the last report. So here it is again today. And I'm like, oh, the March 90 strikes look interesting as a lotto. I don't know the story too well. So again, it's one of those names I look at. I'm like, some of these earnings trades this quarter, it seems like names that have, well, Lemonade's a great example today. I'm trying not to talk about Lemonade because it's another one of those names. It's like you try to trade Lemonade, you great earnings, and it's like it's down. Not only is it down 7%, if you don't follow the name or you didn't see the open, it was $78 at the open, right? Or 76. So it's reverse course, $16. It's at $60 now. So for the stock to get back to where it was just in the pre-market, how many percent that is on the day. So that's why I'm looking at hit $60. Do I get some calls on Lemonade? So all these things I'm running around, and sometimes it's better safe to just parse all the information and try and, the market's going to be here tomorrow. Doesn't make sense just rushing the trades just to get some trades on. But those are the things I'm looking at. Well, you think of, I'm just posting charts here and looking, trying to find some opportunities. So I think Shopify, right? Look great at the open, starts breaking out 10:30 or so, 24.75 with the highs from yesterday. I thought, well, once this breaks 24.75, off to the races, almost got some calls into next week, and then boom, sells off. So anyway, that's it. I'm trying to think of some of the other names. Serve Robotics, obviously. I mean, here it is at the highs of the session, up 3%. How does that make sense? If you talked about an early stage company in the middle of that, hot sector, which would be the last mile delivery, robotics has all the things, AI, and here it is, trades, 40% of its market cap is in cash, right? It's got 270 million in cash as like a $600 billion company. Like that just doesn't make sense to me. It has partnerships with Dash. Uber Eats could or Uber could just take 0.05% of its market cap and acquire Serve for a 50% premium. Just these are the things. It's like how do it just doesn't make sense in the market. Drives like another example was some of these farmers back last year, like the Turn Pharmaceuticals, right? It never made sense to me. Here's a stock that traded over 100% of its market cap was in cash. Boom, now it's at $38. But sometimes the market just doesn't make sense on purpose, right? To drive people nuts. But that's it. So sorry to vent here, folks. I'm just trying to. Those are some of the names I'm looking at. Obviously, the Roblox, the Shopify's. Um, and then if the poop hits the fan, so Visa today, right? And I'm just looking for inexpensive hedges. It's at 316. You start looking at what happened last week. It sold off for no reason, down 4% on Friday, and it won't take much for those premiums to go bonkers. So I'm looking for opportunities, and if there was a pull, I get the Visa puts, inexpensive. I'll continue to hold those. It won't take much for those to pay, but and yeah, I'm trying to think some of the other names that I was looking at today. Oh, Swim, right? Swim was one of my top 5 stocks last year. That's another name. Looking at Pool today, one of the Buffett holdings. I think they actually reduced some of the holdings on the last update, the 13F. Here it is, down 13% here today. It started to bounce. I was looking at the calls, the 240 strikes. They were expensive. Thankfully, I would have added them, and then boom, it sells back off down to 220, then back up to 230. And here it is at 220. But with that being said, Swim, which makes pools for homes, that's one of those names that's sold off. It hasn't recovered from post COVID, and with a low interest rate environment, here's a time where people are going to start looking to get their vacation. Get instead of traveling for vacations, get the vacation in their backyard. Here it is up 5%. I think they report earnings in March, so that's a name I'll be looking. Anyway, have a great day, folks. Sorry for the venting. I'll be back. Rock and roll.